All right, Kristen, tell us, why is Free Money the standout track from the album?
I think if we're talking about punk, it's the most punk song on the album. By sort of the more standard definitions of punk, it's fast, it's urgent, it's raw. It's one of the shorter songs on the album. It's about 4 minutes long. There are a couple 9-minute songs on this album, like 6-minute songs, 5-minute songs. So it kind of gets to the point quickly, like resolves with a bang. It's like it's about growing up poor and, sort of living hand to mouth. I don't know how literal it is about, lottery scratch tickets and everything, but, definitely imagining the life in the late 60s and early 70s New York when most people could afford to live in New York, even, in scrappy circumstances. But I mean, her cover of My Generation, her cover of Gloria, those are like super punk to me, but those are covers, right? And superior covers to the original. Um, but this is her own original song, and it starts out with this beautiful piano, almost like a Tori Amos piano introduction,
Good
and so
shout.
it could
Yeah.
go in any direction, right? It's very intriguing sort of opening, and you're not sure where it's going to go, and it really picks up the speed and the urgency, until it's in like a frenzy. And by the end, it's really like a lot of repetition, free money, free money, free money, and like the way that it just like resolves, and it just has this like free money like gunk gunk at the end is just so, I don't know. That's the stuff where I'm like, I know the Ramones were still playing at CBGB at the same time. They released their album like 6 months later, but they had to have been watching that and just been like, oh shit, just and I watched some performances. I found some performances on YouTube of her doing that song in the 70s and also more recently. And she
Mm.
did it when I saw her live, and it was still like just as powerful as this like old, like kind of witch priestess lady with this
Yeah.
gray hair doing that song. It's like she has just as much, conviction as she did 50 years ago. So, yeah. I don't know why that was the song that when I was in, Stupid Kids that Michael directed, like that was the song that really got me going. And like, from a character perspective, but also just like from a personal perspective, like building energy before
Mm.
uh before acting. Yeah.
Not to be appropriative of the term, but there is something shamanic about her. Like she has this kind of medicine woman sort of vibe to her. I think this is a great example of that in her sound of, to be able to do this song convincingly for decades is crazy. To be able to do it at different stages of your life means that there's like this essential spirit about you. I feel like that you're able to channel no matter your circumstances, no
Definitely.
matter
Yeah.
your age. It's crazy.
Yeah. She's like a conduit. Like
Yeah, yeah.
this song more than most, I think, is like really just feels like it's moving through her and possessing
Hmm.
her. Yeah. Like I can't
Yeah,
picture
yeah.
her like sitting down and being like, I'm going to write a song now,
Right.
Honestly, I think it was a pretty organic, like iterative process of her and Lenny Kaye just like jamming on like poetry and guitar until they got somewhere. So yeah.
The tracks on the album sort of alternate between these like long explorations or like, I mean, like Birdland feels almost like, slam poetry in some ways,
Hmm.
and then these like sort of tighter songs, which like, I mean, I don't know, I read a little bit about the making of the album, and I guess John Cale, who produced Velvet Underground, produced this album, and apparently there was a fair amount of tension with producing this album. I guess Patti has even said since then that like, she was new to being in a recording studio, like within the sort of confines of a recording studio, and John Cale is someone who's trying to like get her and the band to like churn out specific songs.
Yeah.
And so it ends up being this sort of like back and forth where she's sort of able to sort of like go free, and then these ones where it felt like, I think she sort of felt reined in by him at times. I mean, she
Horse
has,
metaphors here.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's sort of like a credit to her that the album comes out like this. I mean, a lot of good art comes out of that tension. But
Mhm.
I just think about, when you encounter an artist who does things differently. I mean, even in theater, even when I've tried directing something in a different way, that there's that moment where everybody goes, what is this?
Mhm.
Is this going to
Mhm.
be good? Or is this like, this feels uncomfortable to me and I don't know what the end product is going to be or how other people are going to receive it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
she just didn't care. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and that, I
Mhm.
mean, that to me is sort of the sign of a true artist, someone who's willing to just embrace something that no one else is doing. And
Mhm.
it doesn't sort of like, meet capitalist standards. And she's just like, I'm just going to do this, and you're going to go along for the ride. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I sort of hear that tension even in the like in the like the shorter songs on this album.
Yeah. And it's really like the production sounds, I mean, I know there's been remasters and everything, but in the original, it sounds really good and it sounds different than a lot of the other stuff that was, what certainly wasn't disco. It wasn't like,
Right.
I mean, I think the biggest rock band in 1975 was still Led Zeppelin. Led
Mhm.
Zeppelin's amazing, but yeah, that's like a lot of like, strutting, like, capital M musician, like wankery to some degree, right? And so this
Right.
is like, and I, again, they're fantastic, but it's like, it was not that. So it was not like, arena rock. It certainly wasn't the like awful 70s, like country fried rock. I'm trying to think of a good example, but,
Like Leonard Skinner.
oh
Deep
God,
Purple.
yes.
Deep
Yeah.
Purple's probably a little bit
Right.
earlier
So like,
actually, but
I know this didn't like chart.
no hate.
I think, oh, I think, Because the Night was the only song of hers that charted, and that was with Springsteen,
Springsteen, yeah.
but just like imagining being, yeah, a young person surrounded by all this other like 70s sounds and then like listening to this album would have like blown my mind. And like, yeah, whether for good or bad or just being confused and like, what is this? And some of my favorite music and movies and art are things that the first time I listened to it or saw it, I was like, I don't know if I like that. I always give it a rule of three. I'm like, if I'm not sure or if I have like a strong reaction to it, I'm gonna give it 3 listens or,
Mm. Mhm.
multiple watches, before I really decide because, yeah, like to your point, Michael, it's like you're being challenged. Oh, your brain is learning new things, and so I mean, that's what really art is supposed to do, is just, like, force you to think about things in a different way.
Mhm.
The commercial aspect I think is relevant here too because I'm sure she has licensed her image or her words to something at some point. It would be hard for me to believe that she hadn't at this point, having been around as long as she has. But the one of the differences between her and Led Zeppelin is that I've never seen a Patti Smith T-shirt at Target. Like
No.
that's something. And so I think even if that does exist out there, which I'm sure it does in some amount, it just isn't as prominent to me as what I understand of Led Zeppelin and some of those other bands, some of those other kind of rock bands of that era, which I think was the era that she was responding to when she talks about kind of wanting to turn the page on this trend that she saw in rock at the time of people becoming kind of very materialistic and selfish, and that manifesting in a lot of different ways, both artistically and commercially, and kind of in the PR realm, for whatever that matters. But she's at least given me the impression over the years that she has done a good job of not involving herself in that element of what it means to be a rock star, which that's hard. That's got to be hard to do, I would imagine.
Yeah, and she, I'm sure, could make a ton of money if she licensed more of her stuff. I just did a quick Google. She has not had a lot of stuff in movies and TV shows. I mean, there was that I didn't see the CBGB's movie. It looked pretty bad, but there's, a couple of her stuff in that. The documentary about Clive Davis, it looks like.
Hmm. Hmm. Which
Everybody
makes
Wants Some
sense.
by Richard Linklater. I love Richard Linklater, so I'm gonna
She
go back
knows.
movie,
She
and see
knows.
which one of her, I think it's Because the Night is in that one.
That would make
But
sense.
yeah, I mean, she could absolutely have, made
Hmm.
money doing T-shirts and licensing and stuff, and yeah, you can tell she's just not interested.
And that's punk. That's punk, baby.
Well, Kristen, the last time you were here, you offered 4 very distinct standards for perfection for when you were choosing your albums. And so we're going to read them back to you and see if they still hold true or if you have to make any revisions or, or whatnot. You said that on a perfect album, each track on its own is good, but it's better as a whole, was one thing. You said that it evokes a certain time and yet it is also timeless, can exist in any time period. Where the creativity is palpable, where it feels more like a composition, something where a lot of forces have come together to make this. Probably you didn't say this, but I assume like less capitalist, more human. And the sequencing does a good job of like setting a mood and telling a story. So, Kristen, does this album meet those standards, or do you want to revise your standards for the sake of this album? What are you thinking?
Totally agree with those standards. I think this album meets all 4 of them, and I wouldn't remove any of them. The only thing I would add, after thinking about how important lyrics are to, somebody who probably identifies more as a poet than a musician, is that excellent lyrics have to be part of the mix. I would just add that 5th standard. To me, like, I'm always like a music first person. The first couple times I hear a song or an album, I'm not thinking about the lyrics unless they're so front and center that it's like egregious. Like I'm thinking about like Late Chili Peppers or something, something that's just
Mm-hmm.
like,
Pretty
hey, look how
egregious.
clever I'm being, like this like rhyme that I shoehorned in, like um when lyrics are that I'm so clever, like that's a huge turnoff for me. But otherwise, it's like they either kind of fade into the background because I'm so immersed in the music, or they're kind of like one with the music. And I think that Tori Amos is a great example. Like if you isolate her lyrics, you'd be like, this is batshit, But also, she is a poet too, and like her
And kind
lyrics,
of bad shit in a good way.
yeah, her lyrics make more sense with the music. Like you can't separate one from the other. And I feel like that's completely the case with Patti Smith in general, but especially with this album where like you said, Mike, it's like, a song will literally start out as like spoken word and then become like a full song
Yeah.
with like verses and choruses and so forth. And excellent lyrics is subjective, but like excellent lyrics by my standards, which is, yeah, it's intertwined with the music and it's kind of standalone poetry at the same time.
And I think The Cure would fit that bill as well. Like that would fit the lyrics bill.
Yeah. So like, but I still like, yeah, I'll be singing. I was Tori Amos on the brain because I hadn't listened to her much for a while. And I just went on a deep dive recently and I'm like, wow, this is definitely, they're definitely words. Yeah, it's not the kind of lyrics that you write when you're like 12 and you're like, I'm going to write my first blah, blah, blah. Like you have to be a pretty advanced thinker to string those words together. And same with Patti.
Which album were you digging into specifically?
Well, Boys for Pele, because they just had the 30th anniversary.
And that one, the lyrics on that are, woof.
Yeah, yep.
I don't know that one.
Have you read Pitchfork I think it's Pitchfork did a revisiting of that album because like that album got like shat upon across the board.
Was unfairly, yeah.
And the review, you should read it because the review is like
it's a modern Pitchfork.
Oh yeah, it's like we were so wrong about this album, and it like the reviewer just explains the album in a way that not only makes it make more sense, but also you come away from it thinking like, oh my god, Tori Amos is a genius. Like it's it's someone put it into words the sort of feeling that the album creates.
Well, good. I'm glad Pitchfork was positive.
Yeah, they were about horses too. To be fair.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, they yeah, I kind of stopped engaging with them because their standards were so, I mean, I'm talking about like 2000s. I was just like, okay, guys, I get it. But that's really good because I think I saw her on that tour in 96 and yeah, incredible.
I'm so jealous you saw her on the Boys for Pele tour. I think
I think I saw her on the next tour and got her signature. So that was a big deal.
Wait, how have we never talked about this?
That's a good question.
You gotta
How have
say.
we? You got Tori Amos to sign something?
I did. I mean, it was in
Damn.
a huge crowd of people at a meet and greet, and I like passed her something to sign, and like so it got passed by like several people. I didn't get to like make contact, but
Right.
yeah. But
Wow.
yeah, I saw her
There you
on
go.
those tours, and then so Boys for Pele and Choir Girl Hotel, and then I didn't really get into her later stuff, but I did see her tour with people from Drew, Lauren Vitale and Linda Lee Wells in
Shout
2017.
out.
And she played a lot of old stuff.
Mm.
When did you see her?
I saw her. I think I saw her Choir Girl, and then I saw the To Venus and Back when she was touring with Alanis, where she opened for Alanis. She went first, and then Alanis went second. Which I mean, it makes sense for
They didn't
mainstream
switch
Times.
off?
music.
Wow. Okay.
No, they never did. And but I mean, honestly, it was a good double billing. I mean,
Yeah.
Alanis Morissette is also a pretty talented performer and
Yes.
charismatic performer. But yeah, I
Be worse
haven't.
than that.
Strange Little Girls, I have a real soft spot for because
Mm.
her cover of the Velvet Underground song is, it's so good.
I
So
think that's the last one I bought from her.
yeah. Then I mean, she started going a little, it started to
Kind of
sound a
new
little,
agey.
little samey everything since
Yeah.
then. But anyway, we went on a
Yay.
tangent.
In any
Yeah.
case, so this is an album that's very close to your heart. Clearly, like who do you see nowadays? You know, kind of the younger generation. Who do you think she passed the torch to, in your opinion?
That's a great question.
Who's bearing on the tradition of Patti Smith
I
in
mean,
music
in
these days?
popular music, hardly anybody, but
Yeah.
I love her because some of my favorite artists, I think, like you can kind of deconstruct their influences and whatever, Rimbaud, Beat Poetry, Dylan, Jagger, Hendrix, like people we've talked about. You can hear all that in her sound, but she has very much her own sound. And then she goes on to influence people again in like indirect ways, right? So I already mentioned Sonic Youth, but I would say, I mean, Kim Gordon is, only a little bit younger than Patti Smith, just released a new album, is also from that same school of like, hey, I started as a visual artist. And then I was like, I guess I'll learn the bass. And I guess I'll just like, these people that I've been hanging out with in New York, I'm just going to like start messing around and playing music with them, and then we made our own sound, right? Like Bikini Kill, Riot Grrrl,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
very much an influence. Again, not like a lift and shift of her sound, but just like her approach to art, to taking up space in the world. Kind of sadly, she doesn't identify as a feminist, but I think that that's more generational, like she is, whether she identifies as one or not, right? Like her
Yeah,
existence.
you hate to say it.
And so like, yeah, I don't want to, get too hung up on labels, but she did open doors for all those people. I mean, there would be no Courtney Love,
No
without
Fiona Apple.
her. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think like maybe the early 2000s, like Yeah Yeah Yeahs, also from Jersey, kind of the like resurgence of the garage sound, even if it was a little more calculated, I guess, in the early 2000s. Like that's still all those people I'm sure were listening to her. And yeah, I think, I don't know, I was thinking about the kind of lack of bands and like punk bands that regular people have heard of these days, right?
Like Amyl and the Sniffers, you listen to them?
Yeah, they're good for
Yeah,
sure.
there's that's kind of more explicitly punk inflected too in terms of sound. But I feel
Yes.
like Amyl she'd probably identify as like a descendant of Patty's.
Sure. I recently got into, and this is like how little I'm hip on new music, but like Mannequin Pussy, they've been together for probably 10
Yeah, they're
years.
great.
But like I recently have gotten like into them. And so
Mhm.
that's like, they have some slower songs. They're not all like, 2-minute, like, like traditional punk, but that's another one where I'm like, oh, okay, there's like kind of whispers of Patty
Yeah.
going on for that too. So I mean, like, I guess I should say I know there's like tons of this music happening, but it's not crossing over. Even in like Geese being on SNL, there's like so much. I don't really care for them, but like the fact, I think there's so much discourse about it because there's such a dearth of people and guitars making loud sounds, in the mainstream right now.
Well,
She gave Geese her blessing, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Like she did some interview where she's like, I really like them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nick Cave said that too. It's crazy. It's crazy they're getting all this validation from some of the old heads, which is
Yeah, I mean, again, I think if there were more bands like that, then it maybe wouldn't be such a huge deal. But
some people have sort of theorized that Geese is sort of cracking something open right now. That there are a lot of people, maybe they might not be your thing, but like that this might be what sort of enables like a revival of rock, just because like no one else quite sounds like them right now. Although also some people have said they sound like 17 other bands like smushed together.
Exactly.
So
if that's going to open the door, then I am so for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's also something about it being a femme-led effort as well, which I think is, to say what you will about gender. I think it died in 2007 at the very least. But the fact that we're kind of, I always call this, and I'm on my Courtney Barnett soapbox again, which I don't know if this is a known soapbox, but it's a soapbox that I feel like I'm on. She was one of my favorite kind of like female guitarist musicians, and I'm finally going to see her in May.
Awesome.
I'm really excited about. I've never seen her live, but I'm going to see her in a small room here in St. Louis, and by myself. It's going to be really fun. But what's cool about her is I think that she's taking a lot of that kind of like guitar forward sound, but she maybe doesn't have that kind of like a spiky sort of like iconoclastic for like very specific kind of artist-y vibe that Patti has. So maybe she's making the kind of like guitar kind of music, but doesn't have as much of that kind of like extroverted profile that we're sort of still seeking from front woman of a rock band right now.
Yes, exactly. And that's why, like, when I saw, it's a, small club in the early 2000s, I was like, like Karen O was like possessed. Like she was, I don't know, like climbing all over stuff and spitting music on the crowd. I mean, spitting music. She was spitting music, spitting water or beer on the crowd. And just like, it was, it really, again, like made me think of Patti, just like somebody that was just totally unhinged. Yeah. Okay. We need more of that.
We do. Right. We do. All right. Well, I feel like now might be we might have found a nice little button there, and it might be the perfect time for us to transition to the next phase. Michael, don't you think?
I think so, and that is what we like to call the
deliberation phase. So now, okay, you've presented your case, Kristen. Now we've moved into the deliberation phase where Michael and I will assess the job you did making the case for this album and decide whether or not it is ready for the pantheon. Michael, why don't you start us off?
Sure. I mean, you already had an advantage because of the fact that like we have a connection, specifically through Stupid Kids to Patti Smith. So I'm glad that I did not know though that Free Money was the song you listened to as warm up. So that was a nice little tidbit. Also, I enjoyed learning that you had Tori Amos sign something, which has nothing to do with your case. Anyway, when you mentioned something about you sort of, I wrote down that you said that she like the fact that she lets the music move through her. It felt like a really good description of that. I mean, right before we got on this recording, I watched her most recent appearance on Stephen Colbert's show, and hearing her like just the way, just such like a thoughtful person. There's just some sort of energy. I mean, like I would venture that like half the people in that audience did not know who she was, and yet there was like this reverence, and people were like hanging on her every word. And there's just something about her. She just sort of like draws in some sort of universal energy. And the fact that she is able to put it out through the music, like she is that conduit.
Yes.
I think it's something that you explained really well. I also want to applaud the fact that in such a male-dominated world, we have not once, and you did not once mention the person that she's often associated as being connected to. This was an argument that was solely about her and about the music, and I'm not even going to say the name. So I'm just going to let it go like that. So that's
You talking about Mapplethorpe?
No, I wasn't going to say it. The fact that
I pointedly didn't, like name the other people in her band specifically in the 60-second intro, nor did I mention Mapplethorpe in the 60-second intro because I felt like this is about her kind of.
Well,
Yeah,
and
but I mean,
yeah,
it's. I mean, he did. He the iconic album cover. He shot that.
He did. He did.
They were really
Important
like
figure.
intertwined for a long time. But yeah, she would have been herself no matter what
Regardless.
male people she was involved with. I think that's true,
Yeah.
and I
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah.
Hell
All right,
yeah.
Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, it was great because it's such in the spirit of Patti. I feel like this was kind of a really complete story that you've presented for us, and you did this on your first appearance as well. There's a kind of roundness to the way you presented it, both on kind of like a level of when you discovered the album to kind of like how it exists for you today, how Patti's personage as an artist has affected you and kind of like your outlook, the way that it has brought you onto other artists. All of these things were really clear in your argument, so all that works in your favor. And I feel like we need to include the grand dames, if you will, of rock music. We need to make sure that these ladies end up in the pantheon, because I feel like her influence is felt in ways that we may not even be able to perceive, kind of like front of mind. So like lives in an admirable way. She approaches her work in an admirable way. I see you carry her spirit. Um, what more could you ask for? So well done. That's kind of where I'm at. Michael, how do you want to do this? You want to put it to me? You want me to put it to you?
You can put it to me.
Okay, Michael, tell us. Has Kristen done a good enough job of building a case for Horse's perfection? Does it go to 11? Is it a perfect album?
It certainly is. There's no debate. No debate about this one. All right, there you go. There you go.
Yeehaw! You get a big old yeehaw, Kristen. Well done.
My gosh, amazing! I'm loving the horse impression.
Little Foley work for you.
I will say once again, you did give us an embarrassment of riches in terms of the albums to choose from here. So
Yeah.
we did almost consider at one point the Runaways, talking about them, because I think I actually don't think that's the first time that they've been on someone's list.
No, they've appeared before. I can't remember who, but they've appeared before.
But we were both like, we got to talk about Horses. Like we had to talk about it.
Yeah, and like, I mean, it's a great. They actually, or at least, I don't know if the full Runaways, but I know that in the years following this, like 76, 77, they were also at CBGBs and like teenagers,
Yeah.
So yeah,
Totally.
I'm sure. I mean, they did try to do the, sort of rivalry thing, like with her and Debbie Harry, which I think is so boring. But
Right. Come on.
I'm like, I would love. I think about, what would it be like to be a young woman performing at or attending shows at CBGB in 1975, and just it just boggles the mind.
Yeah, that's something else. That's something else.
Well, Kristen, anything you want to shout out? That can be like an organization that you feel really strongly about, a cause, an album you've been listening to, an artist, like anything you want to share with our listeners and say they must know more about this as well.
Sure. I'll, just to put a pin on the CBGB's thing, I will forever regret the fact that I was living in New York City when CBGB's closed. And I knew that it was closing in fall of 2006, but Patti Smith closed it out. Like, she played for 3.5 hours. Elegy was the last song that was played there. And she read out a list of like punk rock musicians and advocates and activists who had died in recent years. And I don't know if I could have been there, but like knowing that was happening when I was living there, it's like that will haunt me forever. Anyway, in terms of organization, I did briefly mention Boston Raising Powerful Musicians. They are a music and feminism organization in Boston, who started doing, what might be described as like rock camps for young girls and gender expansive youth, basically like not cisgender boys, because they have plenty of opportunity to play music or be encouraged to play rock music. So these kind of rock camp or girls rock organizations started in the Pacific Northwest in the 90s, like as an output of Riot Grrrl, and they've sprung up all over the country and all over the world now. So it's not like a formal, there's not one conglomerate, but they're all like kind of sister organizations. And the one in Boston also has an adult program, which like that's where I learned drums and perform on a stage at a rock club. And then my daughter Moira has done it for several years. So look it up. Donate money if you can. It's just like a volunteer run organization that is just trying to make space for youth and adults to express themselves. And they put posters all over the walls during we rent out the space for the program of women and gender nonconforming musicians, and Patti Smith is one of them. And so just again, like lots of connections there about just like the idea of saying screw the status quo. Yeah. And Patti Smith's activism is totally inspiring. It can be very overwhelming right now, I think, to kind of know where to put your time and money, but just like anything is better than nothing. And even just like following her on social media and seeing everything that she has to say and everything that she's doing to respond to everything that's happening in the world right now is like something that, to remind me to like not put my head in the sand.
Totally. I believe that's what they call the good work.
Yes. Yeah. And she has, consistently been on the right side of history.
Amen. God love you, Patti, and God love you, Kristen. This has been a real treat. Thanks for coming back. Love to have you.
So happy to be back. Thank you so much.
Totally. What a pleasure.
I think just, a reminder to do all the following and subscribing, even though we have complicated relationships with social media.
Sure.
It's how you can know when a new episode is coming, or what, more information about our guests and all that jazz, if you will.
Email us if you want too. We got an email address.
Yeah.
This one goes to 1111podcast@gmail.com. Send us a question. Send us a recommendation. Somebody you want on the pod. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Tell us to stop talking about Radiohead all the time. That sort of thing.
We only mentioned them once today, so I think that's pretty good.
That's true. Yeah. And Kristen brought it up. So yeah,
exactly.
We didn't even initiate it. Yeah.
Bless you, Moira, carrying on the tradition. All right. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, y'all. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Bye.